What's going on, good people? It's your boy Iceberg back with another video, and in this reaction we're going to be reacting to a video that went viral about 3 weeks or so ago. Shout out to the civil rights lawyer. You can find him at thecivilrightslawyer.com. Also has a YouTube channel, The Civil Rights Lawyer. I'll post a link in the description of the video so you'll be able to go there, subscribe to the channel, watch the videos in their full entirety without my commentary over them. If you choose to, make sure you go over there, give them a subscribe, give them a thumbs up on the video, because the civil rights lawyer really breaks this down very well. And because of his YouTube videos, it caused this situation to go viral, and now action is actually happening. There are the municipalities involved in this who are having to give comments and statements about the situation that happened. So as you see in the title and in the thumbnail, cops gone wild. This is a situation where a police officer is abusing their power, misusing their authority, and making wrongful arrests, and ran into the wrong citizen essentially here, who actually knew how to use his rights to his advantage, get a lawyer involved, and we'll see what happens. So there's two videos that the civil rights lawyer did. I'm going to go through both of them in this reaction. I have it sped up a little bit because each video is about 30 minutes long. So we want to go ahead and get through it, of course, with my commentary as well. And I'll give a little bit of additional information about things that have happened since these videos went viral. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's jump right into it. So let's go.
Nate Stevens had done nothing wrong. Some 17-year-old kid backed into him out of a driveway.
I pulled up in that driveway just to back out, and I hadn't seen him. I don't know if he was going fast or not. I have no idea because I couldn't see him. But by the time I seen him, we'd already hit.
It was the kid's fault. They exchanged information. Then he went to get a drink. It was just a minor fender bender. It wasn't a big deal. Then a parent of one of the kids involved hears about it and calls the police, wanting a police report.
My son's friend's truck is in the driveway. The truck that hit him has left.
Nathan gets back from getting a drink. Then the cops arrive. This is where the body cam footage begins.
So you got a little preview of what the situation is. There's basically a minor traffic collision. Nate Stevens, the gentleman here we're going to see in the blue shirt, and then there's another younger person who was backing out of a driveway and actually backed into Nate. So that's your preliminary situation of what's going on. Let's see what happens when the officers arrive.
What's going on, man?
Where's that go?
I'm good. What happened?
What's your name? Nate.
How about?
I was just driving. He pulled in, and I guess he didn't see me and backed out. This little scratch in the front.
I was leaving here.
So as you see, Nate's not making a big deal of it. I was driving. He backed into me, just a little scratch on the front, being polite to the officers. This guy here in the kind of brownish tan color shirt is the person who was driving the other vehicle. Let's see what he has to say.
I pulled in there to back up, and I couldn't see him in my mirror. And by the time I seen him, it already hit. So.
Okay. So was you coming up this way?
Yeah, I was living down the street.
So you all have your license on, your registration, proof of insurance? Yes, sir. So you were pulling out. He was backing out of here.
So if you look at this situation now, they got in the preliminary of what was going on. Nate was driving down the road. The other gentleman was backing out of a driveway. Who would have the right of way there? Nate would obviously have the right of way driving down the road. The other gentleman is backing out of a driveway. You see the officer from the body cam perspective, and then this other officer there is actually his supervisor, his sergeant. So he is a sergeant on the scene observing everything that's going on. He's there very early in the situation, so it's not like he's coming in on the back end and seeing what's happening. He's basically going to be there to observe everything from start to finish. So let's continue.
I'll hit it right. Just a little scratch.
Already headed in there, so I'm not worried about damage at all.
So what happened is I can't make heads or tails what he's talking about.
Okay, so I was leaving here.
All right, so that already gives me a little bit of concern. If you all don't know much about me, and a lot of you do, I used to be a police officer. I was a former police officer, left that life many moons ago, but still understand how the law works. So this officer has already taken a side, it seems. He says he can't make heads or tails of what Nate is saying. Nate basically said he's driving down the road. This guy backed into him. It's nothing but a little scratch. That's what I've heard thus far. But the officer's saying he can't make heads or tails of what Nate is saying. So he's already kind of taking this other guy's side for whatever reason. But let's continue.
Facing the other direction. I pulled up in that driveway just to back out, and I hadn't seen him. I don't know if he was going faster than I had no idea because I couldn't see him. But by the time I seen him, we'd already hit.
Right here.
Yeah, and I didn't hear a honk until I'd already hit.
What's your name?
Nathaniel. Nathaneil.
E-I-L?
Yes, sir. Stevens. S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S.
S-T-E-P-H?
E-N-S. Do you need this for the report?
Yes. Do you know your social security number?
I do.
The officer talking to Nate is Officer Michael Bell of the Grayson, Kentucky Police Department. He's no longer with that department, and we'll get to that later. Grayson.
That's going to be very important, what he just said. Officer Michael Bell, no longer with the Grayson Police Department, but we will definitely get into that later.
Is a small Appalachian city in northeastern Kentucky known for its quiet, rural character, wooded hills, and easy access to outdoor recreation such as Cave Run Lake and the Daniel Boone National Forest. According to their website, the Grayson Police Department is fairly small with about 10 full-time police officers, not including the chief. One of those officers who is
A very small police department, about 10 officers, not including the chief. This is a small town. Grayson has a population of approximately 3,700 people. So very small town, about 10 officers on the force, not including the chief. So that tells you a little bit about the situation there, you know, especially if you live in a major city where it would have maybe hundreds of police officers on the force. It's going to be a very different situation in a small town with only about 10 police officers on the force.
Still there is the other officer on scene here, Sergeant Hall, who is actually Officer Bell's supervisor at the time of this incident. He takes a secondary role here and lets Bell do all of the talking, unfortunately for Nate.
Somebody driving by, seen it, said you left and come back.
I don't know about that. I just went got a drink, but
You know when you're involved in an accident, you got to stay there, right?
All right, so one issue we have already, and I don't know if this is going to get into the dispatcher call or if that was earlier, but this officer just said somebody was driving by, seen it, and said that you left. In the dispatch, whenever the dispatcher is receiving the information from the call, the people who called, basically the mother of the young man who actually backed into Nate, says that they got out, they exchanged information when it happened. Nate said, I've got to run somewhere, I'll be right back. He did come right back. He got there. He was there before the police officer showed up. But this officer is already escalating the situation, making it seem like it was some kind of hit and run.
oh, okay. After he hit me.
I mean, you still got sound too, man.
Okay.
It doesn't matter who they do, they can see an accident or the rest of them.
For real?
Yes, sir.
So now you got the sergeant speaking up, saying that leaving the scene of an accident is an arrestable offense. Nate's like, for real, you know? Number one, he was back before the cops even arrived. Number two, he didn't even know the cops were going to be called. The cops were called after they got out, they exchanged information. Again, minor fender bender. Nate doesn't seem too concerned with the little scratch that's on the vehicle. It's the other guy's fault. And he didn't even know the cops were going to be called. The mother, being a Karen, decided to call the cops for whatever reason. Doesn't look like there's much damage. Nobody's hurt. They just exchanged information and, you know, it was going to be the end of it. But the mother decided to get the cops involved.
Doesn't matter. No reason is acceptable.
Didn't know.
You got anything you shouldn't have tonight? Drugs, not alcohol, anything?
Is somebody got to call my uncle about? My uncle cool. Is somebody got to call him about?
So what they got nothing to do with
I
it.
know, but I'm not a victim, or I am a victim. You know what I'm saying? I'd be
The victim of...
I'm the one that did.
You are, but I'm just asking.
Okay.
Basically investigative questions. Okay?
I
Is
get it.
there anything you've taken?
So as you can see, Nate is saying, look, I'm the victim here. I'm the one who got hit. Do I need to call like a lawyer or something right now? Y'all asking me questions about all types of things and acting like I left the scene of an accident. Do I need to call a lawyer or something? Because I'm the victim. I got hit. He was in the wrong. He backed into me. I didn't call the cops. I wasn't going to make a big deal of it. The cops didn't even really need to be involved in this situation. But let's continue.
Shouldn't have today.
No. I'm a health nut, brother.
Huh?
I'm a health nut.
Okay. So you don't do drugs, alcohol, nothing like that?
No, no.
All right, do you care to do a few tests for me?
I'm not going to, but no, I don't.
Okay. So you're not going to do no tests for me?
For what?
I want to make sure you're not under the influence.
I'm definitely not.
All right, man. So here's how it's going to work, okay?
All right, so we run into an issue here. Sergeant's in the background. Sergeant's just observing. He's letting the Officer Bell take the lead. No problem with that, right? Officer Bell's wanting to administer field sobriety tests and stuff like that. For what reason, I don't know. Nate was driving down the road. This other guy backed into him. Why are we talking about field sobriety tests and drugs and stuff like that? Nate's like, no, I don't want to do any of your tests or anything like that. Officer Bell says, okay, so here's how it's going to work. So that's a red flag for me. Whenever the officer gets into here's how it's going to work, he's trying to take a commanding position of authority over you. Again, this is a minor traffic incident. They probably don't get very many police calls in this town of 3,700 people. That's why there's only a 10-person police force. But this officer is doing extra right now and escalating the situation when at most it should be a report and, they pretty much go on their way. But let's see what happens.
You're acting very erratic. You're stumbling over yourself. Let's see an accident. Okay. So this is what I call an investigation. Okay.
Acting erratic and stumbling over yourself left the scene of an accident. What is he doing that is considered erratic? How's he stumbling over himself? Yes, he technically left the scene of an accident that he didn't even expect to get reported to the police. He was back before they even got there. So why we're making this a big deal as if he tried to flee an accident scene, I don't understand. But let's continue.
I mean, I'll do whatever. I mean, I'm not hiding anything from you fellas.
You just told me you wouldn't. So I mean, are you or?
I mean, I don't like this.
You have good reason to not like this, Nate, because why are they asking you all these questions and treating you like you've done something wrong? You got hit here. So you have good reason to not like it.
Okay.
I'm not answering no questions, sir.
Okay.
So for some reason, Officer Bell gets this hunch that Nate must be drunk. He claims that Nate is acting very erratic and claiming that he's stumbling over himself. Now, erratic means unpredictable, inconsistent, or irregular in behavior, movement, or performance. Looking at the video footage so far, Nate's behavior is quite the opposite. Very regular, normal, and calm. Also,
I have to agree with the civil rights lawyer here. Nothing about Nate's behavior seems erratic or irrational.
Looking back at the footage so far, there is nowhere where Nate can be seen stumbling at all. To the contrary, he appears to be completely normal and perfectly steady.
So, are you going to do these tests or not?
What are the tests?
I'll explain them, but are you willing to do them?
Sir, I don't speak to cops. I'm my lawyer.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. The officer says, oh boy, because number one, I don't know why he's escalating this situation. Number two, he's dealing with somebody who knows a little bit more about their rights than he expected. So he says he doesn't want to talk to cops without his lawyer. Great move. He's already done more talking than he even needed to at this point.
The other claim that Bell mentions is that Nate allegedly left the scene of an accident. Sure, drunks do tend to do that, but this wasn't that sort of an accident. I mean, some kid backed into him. They both stopped, exchanged information. It was a minor fender bender. The kid even admits to the 911 dispatcher that Nate wasn't fleeing anything, that he said that he would be right back, which he was prior to the cops arriving.
Carter County 911, where's your emergency?
A car has just plowed into the back of my son's friend's truck.
Now listen to this description that the mother, not of the person driving the car, but of a friend of the person, has called 911 and said a car has plowed into the back of my son's friend's truck. No, it's the opposite. Your son's friend plowed into the front of Nate's truck. But let's continue.
My son's friend's truck is in the driveway. The truck that hit him has left.
So it was a hit and run? What kind of vehicle?
Was it a Titan? It was a Nissan Gold truck. Toyota Tundra.
So she's calling the cops. She don't even know what's going on. She's about to say that it's a Nissan Titan when really it's a Toyota Tundra. The dispatcher asks, so it's a hit and run? She's like,
It's a Toyota Tundra, a gold Toyota Tundra?
Mm-hmm.
So it hit a vehicle and took off, right?
Yeah, it hit the vehicle. They got out and talked, and I walked outside, and then I saw him drive off.
So that changes things. Hit the vehicle, they got out and talked, and then I saw him drive off. What'd they talk about? You don't know. Why are you calling the cops? Why are you calling 911 as if somebody got hurt here, somebody is injured, there's some damages? Your son's friend is the one at fault here. Why did you even get involved, lady?
He can't go far because it's one of the neighbors.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Did they speak to someone or?
Yeah, they spoke to my son's friend and said I guess they had to go get something, and they left. I don't know.
Okay, so
was.
I mean, it wasn't like he just hit it and took off. They actually spoke to him about the accident, right? So what is your son?
Yes.
Great job by the dispatcher there, picking up on these cues that she's hearing over the phone. Because at first, whenever she first got this, it sounded like, oh, so they hit him and took off? Okay, it's a hit and run. Now she's hearing, oh, they actually got out and talked and stuff. All right, man, and he said he'll be right back. This doesn't sound exactly like a hit and run anymore.
When I got out, I talked to him and said if he wanted to contact insurance and whatnot. And then he said, yeah. He said, I got to run to town real quick. I'll be back. And I said, well, I'll be here.
A gold Toyota Tundra has backed into a vehicle at this location and took off. They also stated that this was a neighbor that lived in the area.
So it's a neighbor, somebody that is obviously coming back because he lives in the area. So you're calling the cop on your neighbor for something that is your fault. Make it make sense.
302 there, help me around as well.
Okay, were you the one involved in the accident?
Yeah, I was backing out of a driveway to turn around, and I couldn't see him in my mirror, and it was like he was just right up on me pretty quick.
Okay, you're not hurt?
No, we're fine. Nobody was hurt.
And this is a neighbor,
Nobody was hurt. Why are you calling the cops, lady?
right? He hit your vehicle and he said he was going to return. Do we know who he is?
Yeah, this is not my house. It's my buddy's house. Well, I was just here to come pick him up and was turning around.
Okay, do you know who the person is that hit you?
I don't know the fella. No.
Where does he live?
Why did you say you don't know the fellow when you just said y'all exchanged information? You said y'all got out, y'all exchanged information, and he said he'll be right back. I understand that you may not know him, but it's not like he just hit you and took off and ran and left the scene.
Okay, do you know what house he lives in, or does he live here?
I don't know what house.
He did mention to me about something about it being his cousin's vehicle. I just now remember that. He said it was his cousin's vehicle. He was just left his cousin's house.
Okay.
I guess it's on this road.
Do we know who he is, though? I know it's a cousin, but...
Nathan Stevens, but I.
So she just said his name. She knows his name, that they exchanged information. Why did you call the cops, lady? Your son's friend is the one at fault here. Why did you even get the cops involved? You know his name. They exchanged information. He said he'd be right back. He was right back because he got there before the cops did.
I don't know the cousin's house.
Nathan Stevens was the driver of the vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
He's back. I think, no, that's not him. Never mind.
Okay, well, we have law enforcement ahead.
Yeah, it is.
He's back?
He's coming back. Yeah.
So he came back while they were on the phone with the dispatcher. Before the cops even got there, while they're still on the phone with the dispatcher, he's already back from wherever it was he went, maybe to get that drink he was drinking.
Be advised, now another party on scene advised the male driver of this vehicle got out and asked about insurance. They advised that they did want to contact for report. The subject stated that was 10-4, that he needed to run somewhere and he would return. I'm not sure.
Great information from the dispatcher. She is relaying this information to the cops. When she says be advised and then she says this other stuff, that's her talking to the police officers on the radio. So they already know the situation, and the way that situation rings is that this guy hasn't really done anything wrong. Yes, he technically left the scene, but he got back before the cops even got there. They got out and exchanged information. This wasn't like somebody who was trying to flee the scene of an accident so you couldn't catch them and know who did it.
It's actually going to be a hit and run, or if this subject just left to go get something and come back, or what's happened. Go ahead.
10-4.
Okay, we have law enforcement coming to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So while under some circumstances fleeing the scene of an accident could be consistent with a drunk driver, that's not this case, all of which was made clear to Officer Bell. But Officer Bell proceeds anyways with a DUI investigation. Why? Perhaps it has something to do with the fact that Nate mentions that he wants to get his phone and contact his lawyer.
So
as the civil rights lawyer said, all of this information was relayed to Officer Bell before he even got to the scene. So why is he treating this situation the way that he is? Let's continue.
I'm gonna call my ticket.
you're going to sit right there on the tailgate.
Yes, sir.
So you're going to do these tests or not?
What are the tests?
I'll explain them, but I need to know if you're willing to do them.
Sir, no.
Okay.
Nate seems rightfully confused about why Officer Bell is talking to him about taking tests. Eventually, Bell comes out and says that he can smell alcohol on Nate. And Nate says, "You're wrong."
You're not, because I can smell alcohol, so.
You're wrong.
So he just messed himself up right there. He said, I can smell alcohol. Like, you just pulled that out of thin air? You smell alcohol on him? Because he's not drinking alcohol. That can that he's drinking is an energy drink. It is not alcohol. And we'll find out here shortly that Nate doesn't even drink alcohol. But the officer says he can smell alcohol. Why is he turning this into a DUI investigation?
Prove me wrong then. Do the test. Don't do that.
Okay, sir. All right.
Listen,
Sir, I don't
if
do
you ain't
it.
gonna do the
So
test,
as you see there, Nate gets accused of basically drinking alcohol. He blows his breath in the cop's face. I would not suggest anybody do that, you know. However, he basically knows that he has not been drinking alcohol. He's trying to prove this cop wrong.
too late.
Am I going to do
It don't
breathalyzer?
matter.
Is that what's going on? I'll take them breathalyzer.
There's going to be a series of them.
Okay.
Series of
I'm
tests.
not doing these tests. I'm not doing them. With all due respect.
Okay.
Bell then challenges Nate to prove him wrong. So Nate leans over and blows his breath towards Officer Bell. Nate then explains that he will take a breathalyzer test, but says he doesn't want to perform all of the field sobriety tests. Then, in what seems to be a bizarre, delayed reaction, as if it took some time for Bell's anger to boil over, he then threatens to arrest Nate for menacing if he takes another aggressive action towards him, referring to Nate blowing his breath towards him.
With all due respect.
Okay. The next time you make an aggressive move towards me, you will be going to jail for menacing, okay?
Why is this officer escalating this situation? The next time you lean over and blow your breath towards me, you will be going to jail for menacing. Menacing. You can look up what the definition of menacing is. That is not menacing. Now, yes, I, again, don't suggest you lean over blowing your breath in the officer's face or anything like that, but why is this officer looking for a reason to take Nate to jail? Just raises a bunch of red flags.
So,
I get what you're trying to do.
what's that?
Nothing. But
No, what's that?
Nothing.
You know my job better than me. Let's go ahead. What am I trying to do?
yes, sir.
I'm trying to conduct an investigation.
You're right. Yes, sir.
Really, sir.
Officer Bell
The sergeant is not helping here because instead of de-escalating the situation as you would expect a supervisor to do in this situation here, the sergeant is basically on his officer's side, saying that Nate's not helping. Nate, his best bet is to just stop talking and stop cooperating with him at this point. But let's see where it goes.
then runs Nate's information through dispatch as Nate unknowingly starts talking to Bell's supervisor, Sergeant Hall, about the bizarre threat to arrest him for menacing.
312, Grace.
Nate asks to speak to Bell's superior, not realizing that he was already talking to him and that Bell's supervisor was unfortunately right there watching all of this go down already.
I'm getting mad. With all due respect, sir. And if anything, get your sergeant.
I am the
He
sergeant.
is the sergeant.
Get your boss.
Well,
I'm the
this
supervisor.
ain't
Get Jeff May.
Jeff
He's
May's
the
not.
sheriff. It don't have nothing to do with us.
So another thing, I know you've been watching a lot of YouTube. That's not how it works. I don't have to get you any more than my sergeant that's here. If you want to speak to anybody else, you can go through Monday through Friday through normal business hours of the PD.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Yes, sir. Look, brother, I swear to God, I'm not trying to make
It's not brother, it's officer.
Officer.
See, again, this officer is trying to exert his authority. Nate is just talking very calmly, very regularly. Brother, you know, he's just saying, hey, brother, look, I don't want any problems, essentially. It's not brother, it's officer. Why the need to correct him? Why can't it just be a civil conversation? The sergeant is right there. The sergeant is not doing anything to help de-escalate this situation. Not pulling the officer to the side, because it's not like this is some violent situation where they can't step to the side, have a conversation, and be like, hey, let's bring this down a little bit. Let's just figure out what happened, do the report, and get out of here. We don't need to be turning this up into more than what it is.
I literally am just trying to go home.
And I'm trying to conduct an investigation, which you are not allowing me to do.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Bell then gets even more aggressive with Nate, at one point telling him not to call him brother and instead instructing him to call him officer. Now, where have we seen that before?
Push your hands behind your back.
Oh man, just see me with
I'm not your brother.
believe me, you're not.
Yeah, I'll never be your brother. I'll never be your brother.
Exactly.
When Officer Bell asks Nate if he'd blow into a breathalyzer, Nate says yes.
I'm not
If I get a PBT, we blow into it?
yeah, absolutely. Okay. And then I can go.
No, not yet.
So he asked Nate you know, if I get a portable breath test, will you blow into it? Nate says yes, absolutely. Then I can go? No, not yet. Why not?
I'll get dismissed later.
So Bell goes and he gets the device. He brings it over, he administers it to Nate, and then when the results pop up, nothing. Silence.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop. All right.
Nate passed. No alcohol in his system.
So he did the portable breath test. He blew zeros on it. No alcohol in his system. Even though this Officer Bell said that he could smell alcohol, shows no alcohol in the system. There's no open containers anywhere around. They haven't even really been in the vehicle much, so it wouldn't have been an opportunity for him to smell alcohol there. Why did you say you smelled alcohol on him and now he blows a 0 on the portable breath test?
What does Bell do? He completely disregards that, and he asks Nate to perform more tests.
All right. Are you going to participate in any other kind of testing?
Sorry?
Are you going to participate in any other kind of testing?
No, sir.
Meanwhile, Nate is trying to call his lawyer, but Bell says if he shows up, referring to his lawyer, that he can't represent you because he'd be a witness. This would later come up in court. More on that later.
What's your name?
Bell, it's right here.
Okay, what's your name? Okay.
If he shows up, he's a witness, so he can't represent you anyway.
Eventually, Nate says, so if I do, then we're good. The supervisor, Sergeant Hall, says if you pass the test, then everything is fine.
So is he going to do it?
So as you can see, there's a whole lot of conversation going on here. Nate is well aware that he is not in the wrong. He's asking questions like, look, if I do these tests, can I be good to go here? What are we doing? Basically, he's still very confused about why they are conducting a DUI investigation on him when he's the victim in this situation. His vehicle got hit by somebody else who was in the wrong.
I think so. You did leave the scene of an accident.
So if I do them, are we good? Like,
And if you're not impaired, you'll pass
brother,
the
I
test,
swear to God,
and
I'm
everything's fine.
Okay.
But if not, then we have to.
Okay, then let's go.
So the sergeant says if you're not impaired and you pass the test, then everything is fine. If not, then of course we have to take the next steps. What are you doing, Sarge?
I don't give a shit. Okay? All right.
That's that easy. Right, you turn over and just put your back against the truck. Just like lean off of it for me.
Yep.
Tilt right up for me.
Yep.
Yeah, lean off the truck. Just keep your back there. To the tip of his finger. Spot the horizontal. Okay, don't move your head.
So what he's conducting is the horizontal gauge nystagmus test. You've probably all seen it before where the police officer, they'll take the tip of a pen or their finger or whatever and have you follow it with your eyes, not moving your head. What they're looking for is basically your eyes to be jumping or twitching or something like that, which is typically a sign of impairment of some type, whether it be alcohol or some other impairing substance. Your eyes, if you're not impaired, will typically just smoothly move from left to right, following the tip of whatever that object is. But if you are impaired, they will have probably some jumping to them, especially once you get towards the edges, they'll kind of ping off the side. So let's watch.
So Nate agrees, and he is told that the first test is the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. Basically, your eye follows the officer's finger, and in my experience as a former DUI prosecutor, this was the only actual reliable test with actual objective results, being that generally a drunk person's eyes will not track smoothly, but they will sort of hop.
Shaking, I'm nervous.
Okay.
But the body cam evidence here shows Nate's eyes tracking perfectly normally.
We have close up on the body cam. It shows that his eyes are tracking fine. They're not jumping, they're not hopping, they're tracking like a normal non-impaired person would.
That didn't stop Bell from later lying in his written report, writing that Nate failed, claiming that he observed a lack of smooth pursuit in both eyes. Clearly,
we saw his eyes there. His eyes moved just fine. The officer lied in the report.
a lie.
I need to finish these if you're willing to.
You're sitting there trying to say I'm impaired, though. That I was acting.
I'm trying to finish my observation.
There's your observation.
I've got 2 more clues I need to look for if you're willing to do it.
I really don't want to. Because, dude, I'm not impaired. I have no reason to do these tests.
Do you have proof of insurance registration?
I do, yes, sir.
Next, Nate is told he's to perform 2 more tests, the walk and turn and the one-leg stand.
So you're not willing to do any other tests?
I mean, what am I going to do, brother? I'll do them like.
And as the civil rights lawyer said earlier, the horizontal gauge nystagmus, number one, is a test that you have to be qualified to perform. You go through schooling to perform this test. I actually went through the training and all of that to be able to perform that test out in the field. The walk and turn test and the one leg stand test are not as reliable, and lawyers can get those thrown out because a person may just naturally not have good balance standing on one leg. A person may just naturally not be able to walk in a straight line, or, walking one heel to toe, and it not appear that they stumbled a little bit or something like that. It's just natural for you to easily find a reason to fail a person on those tests. The horizontal gauge nystagmus, not as much if administered properly. But as we see, the officer lied in his report anyways.
What do I got to do?
Well, there's two more observations.
Okay.
One's called a walk and turn, the other one's one leg stand. Are you willing to do those?
Sure.
Okay.
Nate is given the instructions for the walk and turn, and then he performs it perfectly, which we can also observe on the body cam.
All right, you may begin.
Say them out loud?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Spin around. Correct? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So we see Nate perform the walk and turn test perfectly fine. Yes, he asked the question in the middle of it, but that is actually an additional sign that he's not impaired, because one of the things you're looking for as a police officer with a person performing a walk and turn test is if they can remember and follow the simple instructions that you gave them. Take 9 steps heel to toe on a straight line, turn, and then take 9 steps back. Count them out loud. Someone who's impaired may take 8 steps, they may take 10 steps, they may just keep on walking to 15 until you stop them. A lot of times they don't remember the instructions, and that is a part of the reason why you will end up failing them on that test. Or they won't walk heel to toe. They'll just take the steps and their feet will be separated, stuff like that. So he performed the test perfectly, no issues.
Okay. All right, do you want to do the last one?
With the foot stand?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
It's obvious to everyone present that Nate has passed that test. However, later in a subsequent written report, Officer Bell would lie and claim that Nate had failed. This is what he wrote. Operator could not maintain balance during the instructions. Stop.
So the officer is lying again in his report, saying that he could not maintain balance during the instructions. Walk and turn, did not touch heel to toe, stepped off the line, used his arms to balance. Operator showed 5 to 8 clues on the walk and turn test. No, not true at all. Number one, using your arms to balance is not an issue. It's really not an issue. Stepping off the line, he did not step off the line. He did touch heel to toe, did not see the instruction part, so I don't know whether he was wobbly at all, but it does not really matter.
Stopped walking, did not touch heel to toe, stepped off the line, and used arms to balance. I mean, what? This is actually a perfect example of why rational, sober people would decline to take these sorts of tests in the first place. You can perform them perfectly, and then some idiot on a power trip who probably couldn't walk in a straight line if he tried and count at the same time just lies and says that you failed. Then Officer Bell gives him the instructions for the one-leg stand. Okay, this one is going to blow your mind.
If you're going to kick a soccer ball, which leg would you use?
I don't kick a soccer ball.
Okay, so you're going to use a foot of your choice, either one.
Let's do right.
Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to lift that foot 6 inches off the ground, about the height of a pop can.
My right foot?
Whichever foot you want.
Okay.
You're going to keep that toe pointed parallel with the ground. I want you to look at your toe. I want you to count till 30.
Like
you're,
this?
You're going to count till I tell you to stop, okay? We'll keep you straight out in front of you. Once again, we'll keep our hands down our side.
So, as you can see here, the officer himself, Bell, is not actually demonstrating what the test would look like. As a police officer in this situation, you are supposed to demonstrate, show them what it looks like. That's why you see the sergeant over here doing the demonstration. Why Officer Bell is not doing the demonstration, since he's the one giving the instructions, I don't know. Again, another reason why his entire report is filled with lies. Sergeant over here is trying to save him by doing the demonstration. However, the sergeant is not the one Nate should be paying attention to, because Officer Bell is the one giving the instructions. He should also be demonstrating at the same time, just like the sergeant is, standing with his arms down to his side, holding his foot out, and talking about how you will look at your toe and do the counting.
Okay? 30? Yes. Okay. Or till I tell you to stop. Okay?
Ready?
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 Go.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
So if you look at this video, number one, Nate is not performing the test properly. Not because he's impaired, just because Officer Bell did not actually instruct him properly and did not demonstrate properly. He's supposed to be looking down at his toe, but he's looking straight at Officer Bell during all of this counting.
9, 10, 11, 12.
Meanwhile, Sarge is in the back hitting his vape. I mean, what's going on here in this police department? Sarge is in the back smoking his vape, not actually correcting his officer on the way that he's performing these tests.
12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22.
His arms are supposed to be down at his side, not crossed in front of him. But again, Officer Bell's not doing anything to correct him on any of this. Why do you need to look at your watch? He's counting to 30. What do you need your watch for? You don't need to time this test on your watch when he's counting out loud for you. He's not skipping any numbers. You'll know when he gets to 30 seconds.
23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay.
Bell keeps counting and counting, waiting for him to lose his balance or to miscount, but he doesn't. He's just counting, and then he's balancing perfectly. Nate performs the one-leg stand with absolute perfection, just as instructed, staring Bell right in the face. And Bell lets him count all the way to 30, and boom, it's over. He passes the test with flying colors. Then
So as we see, he's passed now a portable breath test, he's passed a walk and turn test, and he's passed the one-legged stand test, even though he didn't do the one-legged stand test exactly as the way it's supposed to be performed. Officer Bell didn't actually give him the instructions properly either, so no fault of his own.
Immediately afterwards, everyone acknowledges that Nate had passed. Bell even explains, see, that wasn't that bad, was it? If you hadn't done those tests and passed them, you would have to get arrested and go to jail for DUI, but now you don't.
Oh, man.
Yep.
So you've not had anything to do.
Brother, what do you think? I've told you this 8 times.
I know what I think. I want to know what you think.
I'll tell you what it is. No.
Okay.
And I want your badge numbers whenever you guys do.
It'll be on the citation I'm going to give you.
Good. Citation for what?
He said they'll be on the citation I'm going to give you. What is he giving him a citation for? Nate is the one that is the victim here. The other gentleman is the one that was backing out of a driveway. Nate had the right of way. He wasn't supposed to stop and let the other guy back out. What citation is Nate going to be getting that would have the badge numbers on it?
I'll explain all that when I give it to you.
Okay.
Okay. Was it that hard?
No, brother, I'm not trying to be a dickhead. I got shit to do.
However, later in his subsequent written police report, check out what Bell said about Nate's performance in the one-leg stand. Operator used arms to balance, claiming that he...
Operator used arms to balance. We watched Nate do that test, and he had his arms actually folded, crossed in front of him. They were supposed to be down at his side if he wasn't doing the test properly and if it was instructed properly, but he had his arms crossed in front of him. Where did he ever use his arms to balance? Another blatant lie.
He failed. What? I mean, he did not use his arms to balance, period. He never even moved his arms at all. He never even moved his arms the entire time. This was a straight out lie. So why did Officer Bell tell Nate at the scene that he had passed and then later arrested him anyways and then lied about him not passing? It's because of what Nate said right after Bell explained that he passed and should be thankful that he's not going to jail for DUI.
I understand that, but here's the thing. Based off, if you didn't do any kind of observation test, I had enough to arrest you and place you under arrest for DUI. Okay, so you'd have been going to jail.
You would have got sued.
That's qualified.
What did he have to place him under arrest for DUI for just because he refused to test? He did the portable breath test at Blue Zero. You obviously don't smell any alcohol on him. He's not acting erratic or anything that would suggest that he is under the influence of anything. So what did you have to place him under arrest for DUI for? Why are you even conducting a DUI investigation right now?
Immunity, I wouldn't got sued, but okay.
Nate responded that had Bell arrested him for DUI, he would have gotten sued, and this apparently angered Bell, causing him to immediately respond that he would not get sued because he has qualified immunity.
You would have got sued.
That's qualified immunity, I wouldn't got sued, but okay.
Qualified immunity, that's something that you need to look up and understand what it means. And a lot of police officers think that they or the municipality that they work for cannot be sued because they have some kind of qualified immunity. You are not immune from violating people's rights as a police officer.
Then you can almost feel the mood change at that point, and Bell tells Nate to wait there, that he's going to write him a ticket and finish getting the other people's information. And then Bell walks over to the other driver, asking him for his insurance information.
Again, I'm going to go over and I'm going to write you a ticket. I'm going to finish getting their information.
What's the ticket for?
Write him a ticket for what?
I'll explain it to you when I give it to you.
Explain it now.
No, I'll explain it to you when I give it to you.
Sarge just in the background hitting his vape. What is the ticket for? What did he do that would actually get a ticket? Are you going to write him a ticket for leaving the scene of the accident? He was back there before you even got there. So can you even prove that he left the scene other than what the people said on the phone? What proof do these officers have that he left the scene of the accident? Because he was there before the officers got there. So what exactly is it that you're writing the ticket for?
You're going to wait here, and I'll be right back with you.
He then tells the other driver, the teenager who had backed into Nate, what's going to happen is that within the next 3 or 4 days, he can go by the city clerk's office and get the report that they wanted that apparently does not exist now. And that other than that, they're good to go. And that he's going to be issuing some citations to Nate, and that then Nate would be good to go too.
You'll be able to go down to the city building down or the police department.
So this young man is actually the one, if anybody were going to be receiving a citation, he's the one who should be receiving a citation for basically the way he backed out into the roadway without looking. I don't know exactly what the law is in Kentucky as far as driving and what that would be termed as, but he failed to yield the right of way, essentially. This young man in the brown shirt is the one who failed to yield the right of way, and if anybody were going to be getting a citation, it would be him. But this really could be nothing, because the mom of the friend had no business calling the cops to begin with.
You'll go in there and you'll talk to our office clerk in there. She'll be able to get your copy of the report. Just give us about 3 or 4 days, okay? Other than that, y'all's good to go. I'm going to, issue some citations, and he'll be good to go too as well. All right? I'll get over.
But something would happen.
So he just said that he's going to issue Nate some citations, and then he'll be good to go. Interesting.
Next to change that. And what happens next? Bell and his supervisor, Sergeant Hall, come together to discuss something. What? We don't know, because Bell then removes his body cam from his chest and covers the microphone so that we cannot hear what is being said.
Why, oh why, did this officer feel the need to remove his body cam and cover the microphone? I don't care that you're having a conversation with the sergeant. Why can't that be captured on your body cam? It sounds like they're plotting something to find a reason to take Nate into custody. There's no reason for you to remove your body cam and cover your microphone, even if you're having a conversation with your sergeant. All of that should be caught on body cam so they know. So in the future, when reviewing this, everybody knows what's going on.
This seems to have effectively destroyed the video and audio evidence of this conversation. But whatever is said, here is what happens next. Bell walks
now
back.
He reattaches his body cam. Why did he remove it to begin with? Why isn't the sergeant wearing a body cam? He has the place there for one to go. Why isn't the sergeant wearing a body cam?
Back over to where Nate is standing, and he says, I know I told you that I'd just be issuing you citations, but now after talking with the other officer on the scene, you're now going to be arrested.
So remember I told you the stuff's done a citation? Okay, it is. But also, after speaking with another officer on the scene, you are going to end up going to jail tonight, okay?
Well,
so speaking with another officer on the scene, so that means the sergeant is in agreement with this? The sergeant helped convince him that he needs to go to jail? For what reason? Is it because he threatened to sue y'all? Because y'all are basically trying to trump up some false charges on him?
Put the phone down. Turn around.
hold on.
Turn around.
Turn around, put your hands out. We got it.
As this was being said, Nate attempts to call his family on his phone to let them know that he was being arrested. Also, as this is happening, Sergeant Hall can be seen to pull his taser off his left hip, apparently preparing to possibly tase Nate. But Nate...
Why did the sergeant feel the need to pull his taser off his hip? Why isn't the sergeant doing what he needs to do to de-escalate this situation? He is complicit in this just as much as Officer Bell, in my opinion, at this point. He's helping to escalate the situation because whatever conversation they had when he removed the body cam, Bell went back over there and decided that they're going to take him to jail for whatever reason. The sergeant is in on it. Turn around, put your hands behind your back, and pulls his taser off. Why?
He is cooperative, he complies with their instructions, and he puts his hands behind his back, and he's asking, why am I going to jail? And they don't tell him.
Why? Why am I going to jail?
Don't tense up.
Why though?
I'll explain that in a minute.
As the handcuffs are applied, the phone is still apparently on, sitting on the truck, and he tells his family member that he's going to jail and he doesn't know why.
You're under
Carol, I'm going to jail. Yeah, I don't know why.
Quit trying to pull away from me.
When was he trying to pull away from him? Did Officer Bell need to slam him into the truck like that? Where was he trying to pull away from him other than he was leaning to speak to the phone? You could have pushed him up against the truck and put the handcuffs on him. But you're acting like he's trying to run away in some kind of way, pull away from you, so you slam up against the truck. This is abuse of authority, abuse of force.
You got your body cam on? Okay, good.
After he says this, and in what appears to be in response to what he said, Officer Bell then slams Nate into the truck, then saying, "Quit trying to pull away from me." But the video shows that Nate wasn't making any moves at all. The claim that he was trying to pull away appears to be yet another lie used as an excuse to slam Nate against his truck.
Got anything on you that's going to poke stick stab me?
As the officer is wearing a bracelet that says Blue Lives Matter. So he is all about being a cop. He hasn't even been on the force, but probably a little over a year, I think 13 months at this time. He's just happy to be a cop. Blue Lives Matter is what his bracelet says.
What's the point of the hat?
You're going to jail, you don't need it. I'm going over this car.
Oh, okay. You need my phone, please, sir?
No.
That's it.
Okay.
I do want the badge.
Okay.
Nate's still being cooperative and polite.
Then, as Bell walks over towards Nate's truck, he quietly laughs and says to Hall he doesn't realize that he's going to get held over now, which I believe means that due to the time of the day and the nature of this arrest, that Nate will be forced to spend the night in jail as opposed to being able to bond out quickly.
He realizes he's going to get held over now.
Why is it joyous to you that Nate is going to have to spend the night in jail? Why does that make you happy? That you're even taking him to jail? For what reason? Why does it make you happy that he's going to have to spend the night in jail because it's too late in the day for him to see a magistrate and get a bond?
Bell seems happy about this, really giddy about this, which is consistent with this being all retaliation rather than some sort of legitimate law enforcement arrest. And there's more retaliation than that. As Bell is searching Nate's truck, Bell also tells his supervisor that they should tow the truck also.
Guess we get a signal 40 for this one.
They can't put it in the property. They don't even have it.
Even though the truck lives in that neighborhood on that street and the family could park it, Bell walks over to where Nate is in the rear of the police car, still handcuffed, hands behind his back, and Bell sort of gleefully tells Nate that his truck is going to be towed because it's evidence of a crime.
All right, sir, so what's going to happen is you're obviously going to jail tonight. We're impounding your truck. So it'll be at the Grayson impound. The rest are
I can't have my cousin.
Why are you impounding the truck? It's pulled over on the side of the road. That doesn't look like it's a busy street. The other guy's truck's parked on the side of the road. Looks like people probably park on the side of that road all the time. What's the reason to impound the truck? Other than a continued abuse of force?
No, it was used in the commission of a crime, so it's going to the impound lot.
What crime was it used in the commission of? He's the victim here. He was hit by somebody.
Crime? What crime?
DUI.
DUI?
So, yes.
I'm not under there.
How is he arresting him for DUI? He's passed all of the tests with flying colors. What DUI is there?
Influence.
Okay.
Bullshit. Is that literally what you guys are arresting me for? One of the reasons.
Nate is shocked. He asks what crime. Bell then for the first time tells him that he's being arrested for DUI, and Nate can't believe it. Sergeant Hall, who is Bell's supervisor, then joins into this gaslighting, saying, "What do you mean the circumstances?"
Under what circumstance? Like what did I go on?
Again, the sergeant is just as complicit as Officer Bell in this, because it was the sergeant's job to take control of this situation and not let that unruly officer make this illegal arrest. But the sergeant is just participating in it, adding to it.
There's many more than that.
Okay, test me.
Though he couldn't name any of those circumstances because they were all exculpatory. Nate blew a 0 and also passed all of the field sobriety tests.
That's where we're going. We're going to go to Kenny's daughter's. I'll read you some information, request to submit to a test your blood.
Actually, I'm not doing shit without my lawyer.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
But I still got to take it down there.
Okay.
So the registered owner of that vehicle,
This is my cousin.
they'll be at the ones to go to the impound lot tomorrow and get it out. But they'll have to have all the information with it, okay?
I want y'all's badge number.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hold on that.
Then the owner of the truck actually shows up and is told that he can't drive his own truck down the neighborhood street.
What is it?
So the owner of the truck shows up. Why won't they let him just take his truck? It's not harming anybody. It's not been used in the commission of any crime except for this made-up crime of DUI that they're trying to impose on Nate.
The truck, guy in the car right there, that would be one of the truck.
Well, it's going to the impound.
That he now has to go to the city impound lot the following day and pay for all of the towing charges.
You pick it up at the city impound lot tomorrow.
So, all of the impound charges that come with it. This sounds like small town cops trying to rack up money for their town by taking advantage of citizens. There's towing fees, there's whatever they charge for it to be in the impound overnight, whatever he has to pay to get it out of there. All of this extra hoopla for what?
Well, now, you pick it up at the city impound lot tomorrow.
Okay, what's going on?
I mean, unless he tells me it's okay to tell you, I can't tell you anything. Oh.
So the owner of the truck asks what's going on. The sergeant says, unless Bell tells him it's okay to tell him, I can't tell you. You're the supervisor here. What do you mean you can't tell him? It's his vehicle. You can't tell him what the heck is going on with his vehicle, and you're the sergeant? How is he still employed by that police department?
All of this was in retaliation for Nate threatening to sue them rather than any legitimate law enforcement purpose.
Well, I'll pick it up tomorrow.
Nate Stevens was just driving down the street of the neighborhood that he lives in, doing nothing wrong, and some kid backs out of a driveway and hits him. Then these small town cops roll up, and all of a sudden he's being investigated for DUI. They're lying, claiming that he's behaving erratically when he's not, unstable on his feet, smells of alcohol, none of which is true. Then the second he stands up for himself and his rights, they turn malicious and decide to show him who's boss, show him the power of government and what the system can do to someone who doesn't submissively bend the knee and kiss the ring. So now he's sitting in the back of a police cruiser, hands handcuffed behind his back, truck being towed, about to spend the night in jail. The point has been made. Nate is powerless. They hold all the cards. He's nobody. But even though they took all of his rights away at that moment, that does not mean that they don't exist, because it wasn't over yet. Nate is going to use his rights to fight his way out of this from within the criminal justice system. He's going to do that by hiring a lawyer. And I want you to see that happen firsthand, because then you'll see how these things really work, so that you're not just seeing a YouTube video and then maybe you find out the end result, maybe you don't, but you really have no idea how that end result occurred or how that sausage was really made. And it's not as easy as you would think, even where the cops are clearly lying, because they have the support of the entire criminal justice system. For the most part, all it generally takes is the word of a single police officer to convict you in court and to send you to jail or prison. So when cops lie, you need a good lawyer to dismantle that in court, to speak for you. So what ended up happening here, that deserves a video of its own. So I'm going to break this into a part 2, where you will see what actually happened in court as Nate's lawyer cross-examines this police officer.
So let's move on to video 2. Shout out to the civil rights lawyer. We're going to move on to video 2, and this goes into what happened next.
Why am I going to jail?
Don't tense up. Why though? I'll explain that in a minute.
An innocent man was arrested on a fake DUI. It was all caught on body cam,
You're
Hey,
under
Carol, I'm going to jail.
which shows him blowing a 0 on the breathalyzer and also passing all of the field sobriety tests, and then him being arrested anyway. Nate Stevens was driving through his neighborhood when a teenager backed out of a driveway and hit him. Cops showed up who wanted to put Nate through a DUI investigation. Nate was actually very polite and cooperative, but they decided to make an example out of him because he didn't completely bend the knee and kiss their ring. Nate knew he wasn't drunk. Officer Bell of the Grayson, Kentucky Police Department claimed that he could smell alcohol on Nate.
Because I can smell alcohol, so.
You're wrong.
Knowing that that was a lie, Nate blew his breath towards the officer.
Well, prove me wrong then. Do the test.
You're getting a recap of video 1 right now.
Don't do that.
Okay, sir.
Only to have the officer threaten him.
The next time you make an aggressive move towards me, you will be going to jail for menacing, okay?
Okay, sir.
Then Nate agreed to a breath test and blew a 0.
Keep going. Stop.
No alcohol in his system at all. Nate then passed all of the field sobriety tests, which Officer Bell admitted, initially telling Nate that he would not be going to jail for DUI because he had agreed to take those tests and pass them.
If you didn't do any kind of observation test, I had enough to arrest you and place you under arrest for DUI. Okay, so you'd have been going to jail.
You would have got sued.
That's it's qualified immunity. I wouldn't have got sued, but okay.
But then, after Nate said he would have sued the officer had he arrested him, the two cops covered up the body cam and had a private conversation, ending with them changing their mind about arresting Nate and then throwing him in the back of the police cruiser, handcuffed.
And that covering of the body cam again, that is a big issue here. That's a big problem. Another thing that the sergeant should have noticed, the sergeant should have stopped from happening. But the sergeant took no actions of a supervisor. He just basically piled on to what this officer was doing, all incorrectly.
Yes.
I'm not under the influence.
Okay.
Is that literally what you guys are arresting me for?
All of this we covered in the last video, part 1 of this story, which I'll also link below if you haven't seen it yet. In this video, part 2, I'm going to tell you everything that happened next, including what happened when it went to court. Officer Bell was right about one thing.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to get hell over now.
Nate Stevens would spend the night in jail that night and not be able to bond out until the next morning. Was your client ever actually given any?
So what we have here is the civil rights lawyer. Again, shout out to him. I'll have the link to both these videos as well as the link to his page in the description. And who you see on the right is the lawyer for Nate Stevens, who he hired to represent him in this case and basically help him get out of this nonsense situation.
Traffic citations?
He was cited for DUI, failure to possess his operator's license, and leaving the scene of an accident and or failure to render aid.
But he wasn't charged.
So he was charged with DUI, failure to have his license on him. Small town, probably drives without his license on him all the time, but he probably still has an active license, right? He didn't expect to have some teenager back into him and this turned into a whole police situation. He was charged with leaving the scene, even though he was back at the scene before the cops got there, and failure to render aid. I don't know who he's supposed to render aid to because nobody was hurt. Once the accident happened, they got out, they exchanged information. None of this would have happened if the Karen of a mama never called the cops to begin with.
Charged with anything alleging that he had driven improperly?
No.
They'll be leaving the scene of an accident and some traffic charges.
Leaving the scene of an accident and some traffic charges. What traffic charges could he possibly have? All he was doing was driving down the road and somebody backed into him. Again, the leaving the scene of an accident, I hear you, but I don't, because he was back at the scene before y'all got there and they exchanged information when the accident happened. So it's not like he was trying to evade or elude somebody. Now the officer's on his vape. What is it with these police officers and their vapes? What's going on? What is in that vape? Is that just nicotine or is it something else? I mean, vapes in general are battery acid, so why the heck anybody would be using them, I don't understand. But the sergeant was on his vape while the field sobriety tests were going on. This officer's on his vape driving down the road taking Nate to jail.
No. I was new about 10 years ago.
This officer says he was new about 10 years ago. Nate asked was he new. This officer said he was new about 10 years ago. I don't know if he has a 10-year history of law enforcement. He was only with this department for about 13 months or so. So maybe he's hopping around from department to department, committing crimes against citizens of those towns.
What's going to happen is I'm going to take you down to King's Daughters. I got to read you imply consent. Well, then I'll then ask you to submit a test of your blood, and then we'll go to the county. Okay.
So Nate's already passed all the field sobriety tests. He blew a 0 on the portable breath test. Now they're wanting to take him down for a blood test. Why the officer just insists that Nate is impaired in some way, I do not understand.
It did not detect the presence of alcohol. It didn't detect the presence of alcohol. What? Do what? I don't believe you're under the influence of alcohol. I don't believe you're under I believe you're under the influence of a narcotic.
So now he's changed it from I smell alcohol to I don't believe you're under the influence of alcohol. I believe you're under the influence of a narcotic. I don't know what gave him that impression. He passed all of the sobriety tests. He passed the horizontal gauge nystagmus test, which also a lot of times will indicate if you are under the influence of some kind of narcotic, not even just alcohol, but other narcotics. He passed that test with flying colors. So why do you assume that he's under the influence of some kind of intoxicant?
Yeah, I did.
Due to the timing of the arrest, bond would be impossible until the next morning. Because it was a DUI arrest, Nate would be transported to the hospital for a blood draw, and pretrial services, which is what they call it, would not be in until the following morning. And the judge in this case would not be prepared to set a bond for Nate to get out of jail until pretrial.
Here's another issue. Let me rewind that back just a little bit. Here's another issue I have with this situation. So I don't know what the law is in Kentucky, and it may have been changed here in North Carolina. But those little trees hanging from his mirror in that police cruiser are technically illegal. Now, again, it may not be illegal in Kentucky, but in North Carolina, having those things hanging from your mirror have been considered to be illegal and reasons for police officers to encounter you if they're on a fishing expedition. So why do you have little trees hanging from there? Probably because he's vaping in the car all day long.
Not be prepared to set a bond for Nate to get out of jail until pretrial services could make their assessment of him.
So is the air we breathe outside. So is the air outside.
So Nate is telling him that that vape is basically toxic. Bell says so is the air we breathe outside. Nate is a health junkie. He's a health nut. He likes working out and takes supplements for working out. You see, he was a big guy, you know, he probably lifts and stuff like that. He's actually schooling the officer that that vape is toxic. Those chemicals in that vape are toxic to you. The officer's response is, so is the air we breathe outside. The air is as polluted as the vape is. Okay, if you say so.
So as planned by Officer Bell, Nate did in fact stay in jail until the following morning. And here's what happened while at the hospital.
Hey, sir. How you doing, sir?
Walk right through, man.
Go on. Back again, man.
Yep.
So the officer gets there to the hospital, and the people at the hospital, the staff say, back again, huh? So how many people is he bringing in for just random DUIs, even though they're passing all of the tests? How often is he in there? Now, yes, I understand as a police officer, you end up going to the hospital quite frequently for different reasons. So the hospital staff does get to know you. Even in a short time I was a police officer, I got to know some of the emergency room staff just from happening to be in there on all different types of calls. You know, not specifically DUIs, because I didn't have a whole lot of DUI cases, but for other reasons, people getting injured and you having to go there to interview them, just different reasons that you come in contact with hospital staff. He's apparently there frequently for these blood draw tests.
Oh, man. I was going to read you this. Okay. I will be requesting you submit to a test of your breath, blood, or urine, or any combination of these tests.
My breath?
If you refuse to submit to any test, which I request your refusal, may result in a suspension of your driver's license by court of the time of your arraignment, and if you are convicted of violating KRS 1898010 DUI, result in suspension of your driver's license and suspended by the transportation cabinet. If you refuse to submit to the breath or urine test, this refusal may be used against you in court as evidence of your violation of KRS 1898010 DUI. Although your license will be suspended, you may be eligible immediately for an additional interlock license on your drive during the period of suspension. And if you're convicted of violating KRS 1898010 DUI, you will receive the credit.
Nate's being funny now. He's asking the officer, are you under the influence? Because he seems to be having a hard time reading this paper. I mean, first he was using his pen to point to each word like a child that's trying to spell out the words, you know, pointing to each letter. And he's like stumbling over his words. This officer seems more impaired than Nate does, the way he's reading his paperwork.
Was any additional interlock requires fraudulent arrest?
Pursuant to Kentucky law, prior to a blood draw to test Nate's blood for the presence of intoxicating substances, they had to read Nate an implied consent form. Nate didn't want to agree to anything without first talking to his lawyer. Just like he did at the scene of the arrest, Officer Bell refused to allow Nate to talk to his lawyer. He essentially forced him to make a decision without legal advice. As a result, Nate did not agree to having his blood drawn and giving his blood to the government without first being able to talk to his lawyer.
Based on information which I previously read, I now request you submit to test your blood. Okay. So you don't want a blood test?
Yeah, sorry, keep going.
Okay. Fair enough.
I got a chance to interview Nate's lawyer, Derek Willis, about the situation. When he first got the body cam, he couldn't believe what he saw. Was there ever any blood draw taken?
No, he refused to submit to the blood test unless his attorney was present. And it was his understanding that I could not be present because the officer stated if he called me or if I arrived at the scene, I would be a witness and unable to represent him.
I mean, the craziest part of this whole story is that all of this was knowingly recorded on body cam, except for the part that was purposefully destroyed. And even after receiving the case, the prosecuting attorney proceeded with the prosecution, trying to convict Nate of this entirely fake DUI charge.
And this is what lets you know that in this small town of Grayson, Kentucky, they have a good old boy system where the officers can basically accuse a person of anything, and the district attorney will still review all of this evidence and take these cases to trial. There is no way that any right-minded district attorney should have seen this evidence based on the body cam footage, the contradiction of the body cam from the actual written report, and taking this case to trial, trying to convict Nate of a DUI. But they have a good old boy system, and then district attorney probably didn't even review the stuff. They're just taking the cop's word. How many people got railroaded in this place? Grayson, Kentucky. It's in Carter County, Kentucky.
In Kentucky, if you refuse their lab test, whether it be an toxicologizer, blood, or urine, that comes with enhanced penalties and pre-trial suspension of your operator's license. The refusal.
So the same thing is true in North Carolina. If you refuse to take their test, their breathalyzer test, things like that, then you automatically have your license suspended. However, again, if you have the right attorneys and you know that your rights have been violated, it's all the fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything about this situation is fruit of the poisonous tree. This officer escalated this situation into being something that it never was, based on him trying to get his DUI numbers up, it looks like.
Whether his Sixth Amendment rights were violated, whether it was an actual refusal because the officer failed to explain the standardized field sobriety test properly during the initial stop. Also,
see what I said? The officer failed to explain the standardized field sobriety test properly during the initial stop. He did not demonstrate them properly. He did not explain them properly. He's violating his rights.
The implied consent form that explains the consequences of refusal was deficient. It improperly described how it could be used against them. And it also results in a pretrial suspension of the operator's license.
And so this attorney, again, Nate had a good attorney. The form that the officer was reading to Nate did not properly explain the consequences of if you refused. How is that even an active form that they're using in that small town Kentucky Police Department if it does not properly inform a person of their rights and what might happen if they refuse these tests?
Tried comparing the video footage with what he wrote in the report?
I have, and the report is a little deficient and it is not consistent with what the body cam shows.
I took the breathalyzer.
Continuing to vape. Why he needs to vape so much, I do not understand.
No, sir. You're not maintaining balance. You literally got on.
GPD dropping off 1 mile. DUI, leaving the scene of an accident. Not been very cooperative.
Not been very cooperative. He's been cooperative until you started trying to violate his rights that he knew were being violated. He's not DUI. He left and returned to the scene of an accident before you even got there, so you can't even prove that he left other than taking the word of the Karen who called in.
Oh, listen, Craig, I'm gonna let one of my new little deputies back in. Please be nice, okay? I don't know what it down there.
Hope you have one of mine.
We'll get this on.
His lawyer, Derek, provided me with the footage from the refusal hearing.
We'll call the case of Nathaniel Stevens.
Shout out to the civil rights lawyer for getting this footage. This is the hearing now in front of a judge about his refusal to submit to the tests.
25T 1902 on for refusal hearing. Is the Commonwealth ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the defendant ready?
Yes, sir.
Call your first witness.
Commonwealth calls Officer Michael Bell.
Would you raise your right hand, please? You swear firm testimony you're about to give is truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Say your name for the record, please.
It's Officer Michael Bell,
How are you employed?
the Grayson, Kentucky Police Department.
Were you employed at?
Again, this prosecutor, why he even brought this case, I do not understand. What is he doing? How is this person still a prosecutor? How are any of these police officers still employed by that city?
Capacity on October 6th of last year, 2025?
Yes, sir.
And did you have the occasion to come into contact with Nathaniel Stevens?
Yes, sir.
And was he placed under arrest for allegedly driving under the influence?
Yes, sir.
His lawyer, Derek, got the chance to cross-examine Officer Bell under oath.
That's witness.
Your witness.
Thank you. The original call to dispatch was for a non-injury accident, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
He pointed out that this was a non-injury accident call where a 17-year-old kid had backed out of a driveway and hit Nathan. In other words, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a fender bender where a police response wasn't even necessarily required in the first place.
What did I say earlier on? The police didn't even have any reason to be there. Whenever the accident happened, they got out, they exchanged information. They could have handled anything that they needed to on their own without the police even being involved, except for that Karen deciding that she wanted to call the cops.
The call was that Mr. Stevens was the victim of the accident.
The call came in that there was a two-vehicle non-injury accident. While myself and the sergeant were responding, we was notified that one of the vehicles had left the scene.
Okay,
and he was also notified that the person had already exchanged information, that he was already back at the scene before the cops even got there. But he doesn't seem to mention any of that.
Did you later learn that it was a 17-year-old kid who backed out of his driveway and hit Nathan?
Yes, sir.
And that he and Nathan exchanged information and there was no issue till his father learned about the accident later in one of the police reports. Is that accurate?
To the best.
I'm going to object unless he has first-hand knowledge of that happening.
Even though the prosecutor was trying to stop Nate's lawyer from questioning Officer Bell about much of anything during the hearing, the judge's curiosity was piqued, and the judge allowed Derek Willis to continue with his questions.
Plus, I'm going to...
And see, you see this prosecutor, he thinks that basically he has this all wrapped up. Shout out to the judge for not allowing them to get away with this nonsense and actually wanting to hear the answers to these questions. The prosecutor thinks he has this in the bag.
Because we're having a refusal hearing, I'm not sure how this would...
How's this relevant to the refusal
Well,
hearing?
it is relevant for a couple of reasons. We do have knowledge because his body cam was on the entire time except for when he covered it in Iceberg. And second, during the entire encounter, there was no indication he was under the influence until a couple of things happened. So I'll keep it very brief, just a little bit.
Yeah, if you think, I think I'll let you have a little leeway.
Shout out to the defense attorney for getting that in there. It's all on body camera until he covered it up. That probably raised all kinds of red flags in the judge's mind, like, oh, why did he cover up the body camera? I want to hear more about this now. Shout out to the defense attorney for sliding that line in there.
Thank you.
Nate's lawyer asked Bell about the lie that he claimed to have smelled alcohol, given the fact that we now know that Nate actually blew a zero. At first, he seemed to not really remember making this claim, so he had to refresh his recollection by reviewing his report, and his report actually said, I could smell a strong odor of alcoholic beverage coming from his...
I could smell a strong odor of alcoholic beverage coming from his person. Even though he blew zero on it, and then later on in the car, he claimed that, I'm not saying that you had alcohol, I'm saying that you're probably under the influence of a narcotic. Why is his report not consistent with all of the body cam footage and everything that actually happened?
Person.
You claim you smelled alcohol, correct?
I don't believe so. Let me double check our test.
I don't believe so. He said on multiple occasions that he claimed he smelled alcohol. Now he's saying he doesn't believe he said that.
Bell knows full well that Nate blew a 0, so he tries to sort of steal Derek's thunder by disclosing that fact to the judge first, even before Derek can bring it up in his questions. Bell says, "I smelled alcohol, but there were no signs of alcohol on the individual." In other words, he lied.
I did say I could smell strong odor of alcoholic beverage, but there was no signs of alcohol from the individual.
So why would you be smelling alcohol, a strong odor of alcoholic beverage, if there's no signs of alcohol anywhere? Again, all of this encounter happened outside of the vehicle. Nate was already outside of the vehicle. The other gentleman was already outside of the vehicle before the cops even got there. So it's not like you could say that the smell of alcohol was coming from inside the vehicle because of an open container, which also wasn't there whenever he did the search. So where's this strong odor of alcohol coming from that you smell? Is it in that vape that you have? Is it in something that you're drinking coming off of you?
Lawyer then points out that after Bell claims to have smelled alcohol, and then he challenged Nate to prove he didn't smell alcohol.
Well, prove me wrong then. Do the test. Don't do that.
Okay, sir.
Nate blew his breath towards Bell, calling his bluff, or rather calling his lie. The prosecutor tries to shut him down as he points out Bell's misrepresentations, but the judge shuts the prosecutor down and lets Derek continue.
So when you told me that you smelled alcohol, he looked at you and went, did he not?
Not that I can recall. I mean, I don't know.
Not that I can recall. Is this officer even prepared for this case? He's just lying in front of the judge. The prosecutor over there, the prosecutor knows that, oh, he done messed up by even bringing this case because this officer is not helping him out at all.
Say yes or no.
Derek Willis then points out that Bell threatened to arrest Nate for blowing his breath towards him.
And at that point, you got pretty close to him and said, if you make another aggressive movement toward me, I'm going to put you under arrest.
I did say that, yes, sir.
Was it an aggressive movement to breathe so that you could actually...
Judge, I don't understand what this line of questioning is for refusal. I still haven't caught on to, I've given him a little leeway to try to get to him.
I'm going to let him ask the question. Go ahead.
Shout out to the judge. Shutting down the prosecutor, allowing the defense attorney to continue to ask the questions. Because this is a railroading that's trying to happen here, and this judge is not about to allow it to happen in his courtroom. This prosecutor is full of crap, and so are the police officers involved.
Bell defends his actions by claiming that he thought Nate was trying to spit on him.
So whenever what he did end up blowing on me, but it could be taken as he was trying to spit or anything but both. It could be taken as an aggressive manner.
So he's saying that he could have taken Nate blowing his breath at him, trying to prove that he did not have alcohol in his breath, as him possibly trying to spit on him. Why is he seeing everything in an escalatory manner?
But he didn't try to spit on you. He said, basically, I had been drinking. And you called that an aggressive movement, right?
But then Bell admits that when Nate exhaled, he knew that Nate wasn't trying to spit.
When the act
was simply exhaled.
But it could have been taken as someone attempting to spit on him.
Could have been taken as someone attempting to spit on. Why would you take it in that way when you knew exactly what he was trying to do? Prove to you that he does not have any alcohol in his breath. The sergeant in the background looking away, the sergeant knows that they done messed up.
No, you done fucked up, don't you? No, it doesn't. No, you done fucked up.
Yeah, the sergeant knows they messed up. The prosecutor's about to learn this as well. He should have learned it before he even brought the case.
At first, yes, but then he did exhale air.
The lawyer then forces Bell to admit that Nate agreed to take the breathalyzer test, which resulted in a 0.00 reading.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Stop.
Right. Bell admitted that the breathalyzer test showed that Nate had not consumed any alcohol.
When you specifically asked him, will you take the PBT, he said yes.
Yes.
And when he took the PBT, it was 0.000, correct?
It did not determine the presence of alcohol.
Okay. There was absolutely no indication of presence of alcohol.
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, did you explain the consequences of him declining to take that test when he took the PBT?
No, sir. I just asked you to submit to it.
Okay. So did his hesitation all along appear to be lack of explanation, lack of understanding, rather than lack of cooperation?
It was a passive. I mean, he was very questionable about it, but I mean, I explained it the same as I would do any other.
Shout out to the lawyer for pointing that out. You did not properly explain the consequences of if he refused to take that test, what would happen. He did not explain anything properly. The officer's about to go on and say, I explained it the way I would explain any of them. So therefore, that means he's been improperly arresting people for DUI without explaining to them their rights and what can or may happen if they refuse to take certain tests.
Traffic stop.
But his behavior and the fact there's nothing in the PPT is consistent with no alcohol consumption. Do you agree?
Yes, sir.
Then the lawyer points out that after the breathalyzer test, Nate tried to call him, his lawyer, but Officer Bell threatened that if you call him, he'll be a witness and he can't represent you.
After the PPT, he tried to call me, didn't he?
I don't know who he tried to call you.
Well, on the video, you say if you call him, he'll be a witness and he can't represent you.
I said if he comes down here, he'll be a witness.
What's your name?
Bell, it's right here.
Okay, what's your name? Okay.
And if he shows up, he's a witness, so he can't represent you anyway.
So presumably he's trying to call me, right?
But at that point, he was detained.
This really gets the judge's attention, and the judge directs Bell to answer the question.
Shout out to the judge. Look at how the judge is looking. The judge is like, hey, what's going on here? Why are you telling this person that he cannot make contact with his lawyer? You're telling him that if his lawyer shows up, that he'll be a witness. Okay, fine. I would much rather have a lawyer witness there who can get me another lawyer to actually run this case in court than to have no witness there, no lawyer there to give me any legal guidance. Come on, lawyer. I don't give a damn if you're a witness. We'll find another lawyer to actually be my lawyer for going to court, but I have you, a lawyer, as my witness. You told me that if he shows up, you're trying to make it out like something bad's going to happen if he shows up.
At that point, he was detained for the investigative purposes of...
Answer the question. What was your question?
He tried to call me, and you told him if he comes down here, he's a witness and can't represent you. You told him that, didn't you?
Yes.
This is important because Nate's lawyer has established that Nate was in fact cooperative, but that he just had questions and he wanted to understand what was being asked and wanted to be able to talk to his lawyer in order to understand his rights, but that Officer Bell purposefully did not explain things properly and wrongfully deprived Nate of access to his lawyer.
Shout out to the lawyer for getting that out again in front of the judge. It's showing that this cop is crooked. This cop is not explaining people's rights to them, not explaining the consequences of them not submitting to certain things, and not allowing them to bring someone who they trust and actually knows the law in to help get the explanation, since the cop doesn't want to explain it.
You tell people they can't call the lawyer?
No, sir.
Under what authority do you have to tell somebody if they try to call a lawyer, you can't call him, he can't represent you?
On point of a traffic stop, you're detained. Until that, you're afforded an opportunity if we go for any kind of chemical testing.
So back with the testing, again, he said he didn't want to take the test without his lawyer present, and you previously told him if his lawyer is present, he can't represent him.
For the observation testing, but he's afforded an opportunity to communicate with an attorney via phone.
Did you sit down and tell him the difference between a lawyer not being able to represent him if he shows up at the scene versus not being able to represent him if he called during the compliant consent?
No, it's in the compliant consent that he's afforded 10 minutes, but not more than 15 minutes to attempt to communicate with the attorney.
Then Nate's lawyer points out that after Nate took all of the tests and passed them, he was told that he was going to be issued citations and not be placed under arrest.
Everything was recorded on the body cam, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
And there was a point in time after he took the PPT and after he took his field sobriety test that you said, I'm going to issue some citations and we'll go over and talk to the other attorney. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And at that time, he was not under arrest.
He was still detained, but he was not under arrest at that time.
And you indicated he wasn't under arrest, that you were just going to give him a citation.
He was going to get some citations, but I never told him if he was or was not going to be placed under arrest.
And did he ask you what's the citation for? You told him you'll find out when I give it.
As in, I'll explain it like I do every traffic stop, each charge that's on the citation.
Then afterwards, you went and spoke to the victim, or not the victim, the perpetrator actually, and his father, who were standing off the side.
Shout out to the lawyer for making that correction. Nate is the victim here. The teenager is the perpetrator. He's the one who actually committed the crime and should have gotten the citation if there was going to be any citation at all. Again, cops didn't even need to be involved in this, but the Karen mama is the one who got the cops involved. But the cops didn't need to be there. But if anybody was going to be getting a citation, it should have been a teenager for failure to yield a right-of-way or whatever they call it in the state of Kentucky.
Yes, sir.
And you told him, I'm going to hand out a citation. You can come to the police department in 2 days to get a report.
Yes.
And you didn't tell him he was under arrest.
I did not tell the other party that he was under arrest, no.
You came back and you told Mr. Stevens, if you hadn't have done the standardized field sobriety test, you would have been under arrest.
I did say that, yes.
And when you said that, he said, well, you would have been sued. Is that correct?
To the best I can recall, you did.
And your response was, no, I had qualified immunity. I wouldn't be sued.
I don't recall that.
Okay, it's in the video.
He doesn't recall saying the qualified immunity line. I don't believe that he doesn't recall that because he spit that off too quickly. That's a line that he's used with people before whenever they've threatened to sue him. But now all of a sudden he doesn't recall saying the qualified immunity line, even though it's all on the body cam.
Officer Bell, though, refuses to admit this, but the body cam shows the truth. Bell says, was it that hard? If you hadn't have done any observation tests, you would have been placed under arrest for DUI and would be going to jail. He said he would have gone to jail, but you should be happy that you're not going to go to jail because you took the tests and passed them.
If you didn't do any kind of observation test, I had enough to arrest you and place you under arrest for DUI. Okay, so you'd have been going to jail.
You would have got sued.
That's qualified immunity. I wouldn't have got sued, but okay.
Then that's where Nate responds, and you would have been sued, causing Bell to then change his mind and perform an illegal arrest for a fake DUI.
You're under arrest. I'm going to jail. Yeah, I don't know why. Quit trying to pull away from me.
Again, abuse of power. That's what we're seeing here.
Next, Officer Bell was confronted about the fact that after Nate said he would have sued him, he covered his body cam and whispered with his supervisor, Sergeant Hall.
And at that point, you walked away and you spoke to Sergeant Hall.
Yes, sir.
And you covered your body cam and whispered.
We wasn't whispering. I did remove it off my chest and communicated with Sergeant Hall.
And why would you do that?
Just speaking with the sergeant on scene.
And at that point,
great job by the lawyer again, pointing out that the officer removed his body cam. Why would you do that? Just speaking with the sergeant on the scene. That's not a reason to remove your body cam. Speaking with the sergeant on the scene is not a reason to remove your body cam. That sergeant is a witness in this just like you are, just like the lawyer would have been if he showed up down there. Why did you need to remove your body cam to talk with the sergeant?
you came back and told me he was under arrest.
I did consult with Sergeant Hall regarding the observations that we observed, and we came to a mutual conclusion that we believe he was going to be under arrest.
Mutual conclusion. That means the sergeant is just as implicit as Officer Bell, which we saw during the body cam footage.
You came to the mutual conclusion.
For a conclusion that we believe he was under the influence.
Bell testified that he consulted with Sergeant Hall about the observations they observed and that they came to the mutual conclusion that Nate was under the influence. When Derek asks, what did Nate do that indicated to you and Sergeant Hall that he was under the influence, there was a long pause.
What did he do that insinuated in any way he was under the influence?
This prosecutor knows he done messed up. The sergeant's trying to look off into La La Land, and Officer Bell's trying to read his false report to find out whatever it was that he saw that indicated he was under the influence.
Just the way he was acting nervous on scene, he was pacing.
The way he was acting nervous on scene, number one, it's not illegal to act nervous around the police. Most people, whenever they're dealing with the police officers in a traffic incident or whatever, are going to be nervous. That's actually pretty normal. It's not anything illegal about acting nervous. The way he was pacing, he wasn't pacing at all. He was pretty still most of the time.
He wasn't being very cooperative with the investigation. All signs that could lead to somebody being impaired of a narcotic or some type of...
Not being cooperative with the investigation is not a sign of being under the impairment of a narcotic. He was not being cooperative because his rights were not being explained to him, because his rights were being violated, because he felt like he was the victim in a situation, yet all of a sudden it's turning into a DUI investigation of him. That's why he was, quote unquote, not cooperative, even though he was pretty much very cooperative throughout all of it. He just wouldn't bow down and do every single thing that you wanted him to do without you explaining to him why you wanted him to do it.
And then Bell said, just the way he was acting nervous on the scene. He was pacing, he wasn't being very cooperative with the investigation. First of all, since when is pacing a sign of intoxication? If anything, it's a sign of someone not being intoxicated. Secondly, the body cam shows that Nate wasn't pacing. Bell's own body cam shows Nate literally not pacing and actually being very still. First, he's sitting on the tailgate of the truck, not even fidgeting around at all, pretty much perfectly normal. Then, after they close the tailgate of the truck, Nate stands in one place next to the bed of the truck for an extended period of time as he talks to Officer Bell. Then he performs the tests that they instruct him to perform, all without pacing. And then Nate is once again standing beside the bed of the truck after having passed the test. During none of that encounter was Nate pacing at all, or acting intoxicated in any way. Yet Officer Bell testified under oath that Nate was pacing, and that as a result, he and his supervisor concluded that Nate was under the influence. Then Nate's lawyer confronts Bell about the claim that he was allegedly uncooperative.
How was he not cooperative?
So, did anybody see any pacing at any point in time? There was never any pacing. Again, it's not illegal. It's not any kind of crime to be nervous around the cops. Not a crime.
Everything you asked him to after you explained what you wanted him to do. He didn't call me when you told him that I couldn't represent him if I was here. He hung up the phone with him. How was he uncooperative?
He was very confrontational, was back and forth on wanting to submit the test.
So being confrontational, he claims, because he was back and forth on wanting to submit to the test. That's because you weren't explaining anything to him about why you wanted to conduct these tests, why these tests were even necessary, or what the consequences were for him not participating in the tests. That's probably why he was back and forth on all of it, and you would not allow him to contact his lawyer so his lawyer could explain these things to him, since you didn't want to do it as the police officer on the scene.
Yes, he did, except for the final test he refused.
He did, yes.
Bell was forced to admit that Nate was actually cooperative, leaving basically zero allegations of Nate being intoxicated at all.
The only possible theory of their case is that he was on some sort of intoxicating substance other than alcohol because he blew a zero.
I suppose, because I have not personally heard any allegation that he was under the influence of a specific substance.
I saw that they searched his truck, or the truck he was driving. They didn't find any sort of intoxicating or illegal substances in the truck, right?
They did not.
Then Nate's lawyer points out,
what substance is it that he's supposed to be intoxicated by that's an illegal substance? He's actually talking to you about the bad things that come from you using the vape. He talks about himself being a health nut and a health junkie and all of that, and that he doesn't drink alcohol and probably doesn't consume any of these other illegal narcotics that you are accusing him of consuming. You didn't find anything in the truck that suggests that he was under the influence of any narcotic. So again, where does any of this come from other than a good old boy system and them thinking they had someone they were going to get over on?
that Bell covering his body cam wasn't done for any legitimate reason.
When you covered the camera, were you trying to hold the prosecutor asking for legal advice?
No, sir. I was speaking with the sergeant on scene.
Bell was confronted with the fact that this illegitimate secret conversation took place right after Nate threatened to sue him.
Okay, and at that time, you weren't in fear for your safety, it wasn't for officer safety or anything?
No, sir.
Why would you cover your camera?
It was a tactic. I just went up and spoke with Sergeant Hall. Wade, who wasn't.
Tactic?
It was I moved it off my chest to go up and speak with Sergeant Hall. We wasn't in contact.
It was a tactic. Why did you need to remove the camera from your chest to go speak to the sergeant? The sergeant was there the whole time. Y'all had been speaking and all of that on camera the entire time. What was the need to remove the body camera other than for you to find some way to trump up a charge? Look at the sergeant in the background. He wanted to be as far away from this as possible. But you're right in the middle of it. Why you still have your job at that police department, I do not know.
Contact with the other party there, so it was just myself and the sergeant.
But that was right after he said if you would have arrested me, you would have been sued, wasn't it?
Not that I can recall.
Did that have anything to do with you covering the camera and whispering to Sergeant Hall?
No, sir.
Okay.
Bell said he didn't remember that being the case, but the body cam proves otherwise.
Okay, so you'd have been going to jail.
You would have got sued.
That's qualified immunity. I wouldn't have got sued, but okay. You are going to end up going to jail tonight, okay?
Boy.
Nate's lawyer points out that Sergeant Hall told Nate that if he passed the tests, he'd be good, but Bell claims to not remember that either.
And Mr. Stevens asked you specifically when you asked him to continue doing tests, if I do these tests and I pass, am I good? And what did you say? Do you recall that question?
No, sir.
Do you recall hearing Officer Hall say, if you're not prepared, you are?
I don't recall that, sir.
And after that assurance, Mr. Stevens at that time did the field sobriety test, correct?
Yes, sir.
He did everything he instructed.
Yes, sir.
He also points out that Nate performed all of the tests that he was asked to do, and that he then told Bell that he was making him nervous. The officer also admitted that nervousness does not equal impairment.
He said, man, you're making me nervous.
He may have, I don't want to say yes or no.
Nervousness is not impairment.
No, sir.
And there goes the only other allegation of intoxication, according to Bell, that Nate was allegedly nervous. In reality,
Exactly. Like I said, being nervous is not illegal, especially around a police officer. Most people are going to be nervous around a police officer. That's actually natural and normal. These are all of the allegations that he's made against Nate as his reasons for why he thought he was under some kind of intoxicating substance. Yet he has just basically eliminated all of his arguments.
that's not intoxication or even evidence of intoxication.
You told him, like I just asked you, if he had not done this, he would have been going to jail.
Yes, sir.
Would you agree that that insinuated he wasn't going to jail at that time?
No, sir. I was saying that I had enough based off him not wanting to do filthy ride that I believe he would be under the influence.
Then after he did and told you you would have been sued, at that point you did arrest him?
Yes, sir, because I believe he was under the influence.
In the end, Nate wins the hearing. The judge sets aside Nate's alleged refusal to take the blood test so that it can't be used against him.
I will set aside the refusal.
In other words, Nate did not technically refuse under the law to take the test because Officer Bell did things improperly, and he denied Nate access to his lawyer, which would have enabled Nate to understand his rights before making a decision.
Shout out to the judge, shout out to the defense attorney for actually getting that refusal thrown out, because the refusal to submit to the test automatically comes with certain penalties depending on the state you're in. Normally a suspension of your driving privileges and things like that. The DA says it is what it is. He's smiling and laughing about it. Why is this DA still a DA? Why did he even bring this case to begin with if he reviewed all of this evidence?
What ended up happening with this police officer, Bell? Is he still working for the Grayson Police Department?
I believe he transferred to another agency.
Imagine that. So Bell is no longer employed by the Grayson Police Department, not because he was fired or anything like that, but because he went and found another job in another police department. We're going to talk about that here in a minute.
Supervisor, Sergeant Hall, presumably he's still there at the Grayson Police Department?
He is. He's worked there for many years.
And that's kind of scary because he sat there and watched this whole false arrest take place and sounds like participated in it because it only occurred after this private conversation, the substance of which the evidence was destroyed. But he watched this whole thing go down. He was the on-scene supervisor. He allowed it to happen. He enabled it to happen, and he's still there.
Yes, and I do believe he should have stepped in and acted, in this case, as a supervisor.
And that's the job of a supervisor, especially if you're on the scene, is to step in and make sure these types of things don't happen with your officers. But the sergeant participated in it and helped to escalate the situation rather than de-escalating the situation as he's supposed to be doing as a supervisor. Why is he still employed by that police department?
I'd really like to hear what explanation he has for his behavior and allowing that to happen. I've been a DUI prosecutor. I've defended them. I don't think I've ever seen a worse DUI arrest in my career.
Yes, I prosecuted for approximately 13 years and have also been a criminal defense attorney. And I will agree with you that I've never seen a DUI charge that was so weak.
Just on every level. I mean, and your client is actually the victim of the traffic accident. I mean, you couldn't create a worse DUI case just fictionally.
And what this lets me know is that they get away with that in this small town of Kentucky and in many small towns across America because they are right there with the prosecutors. It's all a good old boys club. The prosecutor had no business even bringing this case to court. He should have reviewed that body cam footage, reviewed that report from the officer, saw all of the inconsistencies and threw that crap out. But no, he took it to court thinking that he had an easy one.
That I would just add, Mr. Bryan, is that my client is a personal trainer. He takes nutrition and health very seriously. He lives a clean lifestyle, does not drink alcohol or do drugs. This had a serious impact on him because he had never been in that sort of situation before, never had any negative interaction with law enforcement. And it's just amazing that under these circumstances that he was arrested, pushed against his truck, and treated in such a way. Even though he was compliant, he did nothing wrong. And this just shows that you can be compliant and through no fault of your own have your constitutional rights violated. And for the rest of his life, people will look at him as he was arrested for a DUI. So regardless of the outcome of the criminal case, this has affected his reputation in the community, and just psychologically being treated that way by law enforcement is ridiculous.
When I interviewed Nate's lawyer, Derek Willis, the DUI...
Imagine the impacts on a person who is doing nothing wrong, just driving down the street, somebody backs into them, and then the cops show up because a Karen decides to call them, even though the cops are not even needed. And now you're getting arrested for DUI when you've done absolutely nothing wrong. They don't have any evidence of you being under the influence of any intoxicating or impairing substance. But now you have this in your record that you've been arrested for it. Whether you get it thrown out or not, you have been arrested for it. You spent the night in jail for this.
charge against Nate was still pending. Fortunately, since then, the prosecutor apparently got around to actually watching the body cam footage, and then once he did, quickly agreed to drop the fake DUI charge. That then still...
So the prosecutor finally got around to watching the video evidence. Why they didn't watch it before they went in there for the refusal hearing, I don't know. But they finally got around to watching the video evidence and saw that this was a fake charge, and they did not bring the case. They dropped the case. But the fact that they even had to go through all of this, Nate had to hire the attorney, pay the attorney for all of this, is a disservice to him and a violation of his rights.
Left the leaving the scene of an accident charge, as well as the citation for not having his actual physical driver's license on him while operating a motor vehicle. I'm told that as of just a couple of days ago, actually, those charges have now been resolved, with the prosecutor agreeing to what's commonly referred to as a deferred adjudication. That means that after the passage of a period of time, in this case 90 days, the charges get dismissed without there ever having been any conviction. It's usually a deal worth taking, so Nate took it.
I'm pleased to report that the DUI was dismissed. The prosecution carefully reviewed the evidence, the body cam, breathalyzer test, and the field sobriety test, and made the right decision to dismiss it. Prosecutors have to do their due diligence, and in this case, they took a fair, thorough look at the facts before moving forward, and we respect that. So after the DUI was resolved, the other charges were resolved through the normal court proceedings. Most importantly, Nate's name has been cleared. Thanks again for all of your support, and we will keep you updated if there are any future developments.
So the criminal charges are now successfully resolved, with the fake DUI already being dismissed. Next up, hopefully, is a civil lawsuit. Why? Because this arrest never should have occurred in the first place. A warrantless arrest requires the existence of probable cause to believe that the suspect committed a criminal offense. An officer has probable cause if the facts and circumstances within the officer's knowledge would lead a reasonable officer to believe that the suspect has committed, is committing, or is about to commit an offense. In this case, would a reasonable officer have probable cause to believe that Nate was driving under the influence?
No. The answer is no. He passed all of the tests with flying colors. This officer was trying to just find a reason to arrest him for DUI.
Absolutely not. There was no evidence that Nate was under the influence. Quite the opposite. There was actually objective evidence that he was not under the influence, because they tested his breath, which indicated 0 alcohol in his system. And they also gave him the field sobriety tests, which he objectively passed, which we know because we have video evidence showing that. Most likely, this arrest was only made in retaliation for Nate not adequately bending the knee to these officers' egos, and possibly also for threatening to just hypothetically sue the officer. Nate had no obligation to stroke the ego of this police officer. To the contrary, Nate had a First Amendment right to express himself in the way that he did. The Supreme Court has held that the freedom of individuals to oppose or challenge police action without risking arrest is one of the principal characteristics by which we distinguish a free nation from a police state. For Officer Bell to arrest...
This is important. If your rights are being violated, you don't have to just continue to allow your rights to be violated. The level of cooperation you give to police officers in these situations is up to you. You don't have to cooperate with their nonsense, especially if they're not explaining to you what the consequences are of you not submitting to these tests.
Him as a consequence was also a violation of Nate's First Amendment rights. Nate was actually very mild in his speech. He had a right to be much more expressive.
He could have been cursing at the cops and all types of stuff, and that's still not anything they could have used against him.
Sixth Circuit, which includes Grayson, Kentucky, has held that calling a police officer an during a traffic stop is protected speech, and an arrest based solely on such an insult violates the First Amendment. So here in Officer Bell, we have a police officer who is on record demonstrating on video and writing and in court that he's perfectly willing to violate the Fourth Amendment as well as the First Amendment in order to retaliate against a completely innocent individual just to stroke his own ego.
So this officer is clearly violating multiple amendments, rights that people have, and he's allowed to just transfer to a different department.
I think the city of Grayson, Kentucky has since realized this, resulting in Officer Bell no longer being employed there. Where did he go? We will get back to that. But the Nate Stevens incident wasn't the only instance of Officer Bell's police misconduct in Grayson, Kentucky being caught on video. Nate's lawyer also gave me footage of an even worse incident that happened only about a month after Nate's fake DUI arrest. This involves a young guy who was arrested basically for an extremely minor charge of just being intoxicated after a night of having fun with his friends. This young guy was mistreated by Officer Bell, and he was eventually thrown in a holding cell in Grayson.
Sit down. Please, no. Sit down. Please, no.
I'm not telling you again, sit down.
Please.
He was begging for help, he was highly intoxicated and probably needed medical help, but he got something very different.
What'd you bust your nose on?
So look at what Officer Bell does. This is another incident with this same exact officer about a month later. This guy's intoxicated. He's saying, please help. No. He's, nervous. He's probably drunk, all of that. What do? They mace him while he's already in handcuffs in a holding cell room and all of that.
So stay tuned for part 3 of Officer Bell in this next video, and you can follow along by subscribing.
So we're not going to go through part 3, but what I do want to show you is what happens with Officer Bell, because as they said, he's no longer employed by the Grayson Police Department. Now, was he fired? Did he resign? I don't exactly know how he's no longer employed there. But what I do know is that he transferred to a different department. He transferred to the Paintsville, Kentucky Police Department, which is about an hour away from Grayson. And in Paintsville, they say that they were not fully aware of the issues surrounding him at the time of the hiring. There's articles, if you just search, you can just search the articles yourself. They say they were not fully aware of the issues surrounding the controversial officer at the time of the hiring. If you read down in the article, it says that, where is it? No problems reported during the background checks of the officer. Now, this makes me question the state of Kentucky. Why did they not have the investigation already showing in this officer's record? Therefore, another department would not hire him. The Kentucky State Police are supposedly doing an investigation on this officer. Why would that not show up in the background check of this other department that is looking to hire him? Paintsville, Kentucky, a population of about 4,100 people. They also only have about 10 to 11 officers on their police force in Johnson County, Kentucky. Why did this not come up during their background check of this officer? Why was he allowed to just transfer to another small town police department so he can go out there and again start committing these crimes? You heard earlier in the video, he said that he had been doing this stuff for about 10 years. He said he wasn't new. He's been doing it about 10 years. So how many different jurisdictions has this officer been in violating people's rights? That's the question that I have. Well, if we look even further into it, as of now, article that just came out on May 28th, so a little over a week and a half or so ago, now it says Officer Bell is no longer employed with the Paintsville Police Department. According to Public Safety Director Darrell Preston and Mayor Bill Mike Runyon. They say they can't make any comment of the circumstances of his departure, so was he allowed to again just resign as opposed to being fired? Is any of this stuff going to show on his record? They didn't know that he had all of this stuff going on, but shout out to the civil rights lawyer for making this situation go viral. I guess the pressure that they received from hiring him after all of this went on made them have the conversations with him, and they probably allowed him to just resign as opposed to them firing him with cause. Because it's still under investigation, they don't want to go back and justify punishing somebody for acts prior if there were no criminal charges against them. Why does he have to have criminal charges against him? The fact that he's violated somebody's rights, the fact that the Grayson, Kentucky municipality should probably have a civil case against it for allowing this officer to get away with this stuff should have been reason enough for them not to want to hire him. But why didn't the Kentucky State Police have a flag on him so he did not get hired by another police department? Well, the Grayson city manager, mayor, whatever he is, they had an official statement that they made about this situation. Let's listen to this official statement and see if it passes the smell test for you to be reasonable enough to say why they did not take more aggressive actions towards this officer and his violation of people's rights.
Good evening. I'm Mayor Troy Combs. On behalf of the City of Grayson and the Grayson Police Department, I would like to address a video circulating on social media involving the actions of a former employee of the department. Mr. Bell has not been with the department since February of this year, after a tenure of 13 months. The video makes reference to 2 cases involving the former officer. In the first case, communication was received after the referenced incident, and the concerns were noted by the department as the case was going through the judicial process. Mr. Bell tendered his resignation prior to the resolution of both cases. We are fortunate to have the resources necessary to have secured body cameras for our officers, and did so in October of 2025. Our officers have embraced and will continue to embrace the utilization of body cams for the level of accountability and transparency they provide to our internal operations and for the public. Thank you.
That's all that the mayor said. Does that justify anything? Does that help anybody? Does that make anybody feel good about traveling through Grayson, Kentucky? They said they secured body cameras for the officers. Why wasn't the sergeant wearing a body cam? Why wasn't Officer Bell immediately suspended for removing his body camera and having this secret conversation? Why wasn't he suspended whenever they were made aware of these situations? Why did it take the civil rights lawyer, shout out to him, bringing this stuff up and making it a viral video for them to actually take any action? Why did they allow him to tender his resignation as opposed to them firing him for cause, or at least suspending him while the process played out? These are all questions that we need to ask ourselves. Why didn't that DA do a review of this stuff before they went into court? Why is the mayor giving this little weak explanation of what happened and not actually taking some accountability for the errors and missteps that they made, as opposed to saying that the officers embrace the body cameras for accountability? If that's the case, why wasn't the sergeant wearing a body camera? Why did the sergeant allow him to remove his body camera for that conversation? It doesn't sound like they're embracing accountability. Why is the sergeant still employed and not being suspended or being fired for cause for the way that he handled that situation? The sergeant escalated the situation as opposed to de-escalating the situation. I hope y'all saw this, and if you didn't, you got to see it with me. Hopefully it helps you to understand that in some of these small towns all across America, you have police officers getting away with this stuff, and even in the big towns as well. But it happens very commonly in the small towns because you have a police force of 10 to 11 officers. They got the DA on their side. The DA obviously bringing this BS case without even reviewing the evidence, which should have been dropped from the beginning, all because they're trying to fund their municipality. A lot of these cities and small towns are funded off of us, the citizens, having to go into court for a little BS brought up because of the word of one officer who is violating people's rights. Know your rights, people. Follow people like the civil rights lawyer and other attorneys out here who are educating you on your rights. As I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again, the civil rights lawyer's information, his YouTube page, the links to these videos will be in the description. Make sure you check out his page. Go over there, give him a subscribe, give him a like, and follow these cases because he is pointing out cases, and I'm going to continue to review them as well. So until next time, good people, I hope y'all have a wonderful day. Do something good for yourself, do something good for other people, and educate yourself on your rights. Until next time, this is Iceberg. Salute.
Now, as they say in your country, let us be out.